The famous bank robber Willie Sutton was once asked, "So, why do you rob banks?" And his response was, "Because that's where they keep the money." Hello again, everyone. I'm Eli's dad with Project Eli, where we educate, we lead, and we inspire. Today, our conversation is going to be concerned with individuals that give you essentially one line or one thought that you can take to the bank. And as a personal development mentor, if I want to keep current, if I want to learn new stuff, can you imagine how many articles I have to read and discard and videos I have to watch and discard to kind of get a different viewpoint, a different paradigm on certain principles that we want to make commonplace for people so that they will understand and they'll be able to move forward. Such an article that I read recently was by a gentleman named Tim Dunning. And Tim Denning's article is entitled "One Sentence Truth Bombs from People Worth Paying Attention to." So let's go over a few of these, and we're going to do this in two parts because there's quite a few of these things that I thought were outstanding. The first one comes from no less a personality than Dr. Evil from the Austin Powers movie. And what Dr. Evil says, and I quote, "How about no, Scott?" What do we mean by that? Well, you're going to find, and you already found this out, that people love to take up your time. It's okay to say no. It doesn't make you a mean person. It doesn't make you an unkind person. If every time someone comes up to you with something and you say yes, you can't go back later on and get that time back. You need to have an agenda that you're going to follow, that you prioritize, so that you can take your burning desire and move forward with it. If you allow other people to impose their agendas upon you, then that's going to greatly take away from the progress that you're going to make. Now, I'm not saying to completely disassociate yourself from other people. What I am saying is pick and choose carefully the activities that you spend your time with, and as a corollary to that, also choose the people that you spend your time with carefully as well, because they can really affect you making progress. The next quote is from a gentleman named Neil deGrasse Tyson, who is somewhat of a famous scientist. And his quote is, "Some air you inhale was exhaled by Cleopatra." All right, this helps put your life in perspective. What I'm saying is that, you're going through a scenario, you're going through a situation. Guess what? You're not the first person that's gone through this particular challenge. And one of the things that you have to keep in mind is that you have to approach the challenge in your own way, but it's a good idea to see if you can't find some clues from other people that have successfully handled that challenge. It's what we in the personal development game called modeling success. However, one of the things you have to remember is that people from long ago, how many of us have been talking about Cleopatra in the last few days? Probably not too many of us. All right, so Cleopatra, yeah, there was some significance there, but right now today, Cleopatra is not really on the forefront of everybody's lips. So my point is, you're important and insignificant all at the same time. Or to put it the way I saw on a billboard, and I love this particular sign, it said, "You are a unique individual, just like everybody else." Okay, our next quote comes from Tim Ferriss, famous author. And Tim's quote is, "Make before you manage." All right, now Tim, there are certain things that, you feel better when you create something instead of managing boring everyday tasks like doing your email and social media and cleaning and and so on and so forth. But I want to go a little bit deeper than that. Here's what too many individuals, but more importantly companies, do that really holds them back. What they do is they get an idea that they see, it's like an aha moment. Aha! Here we go. They have an aha moment and they have an idea, and the first thing they think about is how they're going to manage the idea. That is incorrect thinking. Ideas are not meant to be managed. Ideas are meant to manage, right? If you're seeking progress, create something. The idea manages the activity. Activity doesn't manage the idea. So what we're saying is go. Get to a starting line. Get to the first step and go. And as you go, then you will create a game plan that's more effective. As you run into a roadblock, let the idea manage your activity instead of saying we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, regardless of the outcome that you're getting from your activity. So always remember this. The idea is meant to manage. Management is not, idea is meant to manage. Okay, so don't come in with a game plan that you're going to do, because successful people recognize that you're going to have to have a roadblock, take a detour, so on and so forth. Let the idea manage your activity. This one is from that very famous person who probably has the most quotes out of anybody on the planet, a gentleman named Anonymous. And the quote is, "You do you." All the time there are people that are trying to clone you into becoming this person or that person or so on and so forth. And to a degree, when you're a young man or a young lady, you know, you need to learn certain social graces, you need to learn how people in society interact with each other, so on and so forth. But then you get to a point where you are an independent thinker and you have your own ideas. But too many people always want to follow the convention of what other people are doing. And that goes to the clothes that we wear, the music that we listen to, the media that we watch, the social media that we pay attention to. You've got to be you. And people are too afraid to step out and be independent. And that is where the very best ideas and progress in mankind come from, when people are able to step away from the norm and say, you know what, this idea will be a revolutionary idea, I'm going to pursue this. And always remember that when you have a brand new idea, a revolutionary idea, the first response that you're going to get from 95% of the people out there is, oh, that'll never work, that's not a great idea, where did you come up with that? By the way, coincidentally, notice that the percentages of successful people versus unsuccessful people are also unsuccessful 95%, successful 5%. The numbers are kind of congruent, aren't they? So don't feel that you have to be a clone. Remember that being somebody else is very, very hard work. Now, along those same lines, if you, and this is a quote from a gentleman named Sean Kernan, and I quote, "If you haven't been told you're weird a few times along the way, you aren't doing it right." And that goes back to what we were just talking about in the division of successful versus, or the makeup of successful versus unsuccessful people. Because people that don't see things as mainstream are the ones that are unique, are the ones that have ideas, are the ones that are revolutionary. And the people that only focus on the mainstream, when anyone tends to meander from that, the first thing they say is, you're weird, you're not doing it like everybody else is doing it. So don't be so concerned with always being so mainstream in all of the different things that you do. You know, sometimes it's important. I mean, if you're going to a business meeting, you know, you don't want to go in a pair of shorts and a t-shirt, you know, because, and the why and because on that is because you want your focus, you want the focus of other people to be on what you're saying, not on what you're wearing. That would be a distracting influence. But in the content of what you're presenting, that is the time when you want to be quote unquote weird, where you want to have ideas that are forward going and not necessarily mainstream. And think of all the different things that we wouldn't have if people just stuck with mainstream ideas. Southwest Airlines, cable TV, just, you know, social media, just to name a few. I mean, when the internet first came out, I was a young man. I mean, it was like, I don't know, I guess the 1980s or so when it first came out. And my first thought was, oh, this is never gonna happen. Well, I can tell you right now that I was wrong, all right? And what happens is you take a revolutionary idea and you fine tune it, and when it accomplishes something, and especially in the field of communication, then it itself becomes mainstream. And think of all the different, within that particular venue, all the different possibilities, you know, Instagram and Snapchat and so on, that didn't start off when the internet started. Somebody came up with a new idea that would quote unquote revolutionize the medium. So being weird is not always a bad thing, especially when it's related to ideas. And our final thought for today comes from a couple of musicians that were very prominent in my day, named Simon and Garfunkel. And maybe you've heard of them, maybe you haven't. All right, they're great songwriters, great harmonizers. And the song that I want to focus on with you today is called The Sounds of Silence. And this is a quote from the lyrics, and I happened to run into it and said, boy, you know, this is something that would really relate to what we do in personal development. Now keep in mind, one of the things that we always talk about is that when you have a burning desire, and you know what my burning desire is, personal development, getting Eli to be the best person that he can be, giving him the blueprints for success, and at the same time fulfilling the obligation that my mentors gave to me to share the knowledge, which is what I'm doing with you. When you have a burning desire like that, I pointed out many times that the things that you see around you tend to relate to your particular burning desire. You can't help it. And that's the way that you make progress, is that's the way you get kind of obtuse ideas about moving your particular activity forward, and how you can somewhat revolutionize different concepts. All right, so here's the Simon and Garfunkel lyrics from Sounds of Silence. Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again, because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping. And the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sounds of silence. All right, how does that relate to personal development? My goodness, Eli's dad, what the heck are you talking about? Well, we've talked about many times that when you have a burning desire, right before you cross the border from consciousness to sleep, that's the time that you want to visualize your desired outcome only. You don't want to formulate how you're going to get there, just your desired outcome. And then you plant that seed, it goes out into the universe, and this is when the universe will give you information through the communication corridor in your dreams, in your thoughts, in activities, so that when you wake up in the morning and you have a dream and you thought about something, or you wake up in the middle of the night, which happens to me so often, where I get an idea, I grab my phone, I go to the texting thing where you can just speak into the phone and say what it is and go to sleep, and then boom, I'm back and sleeping soundly again. So in the morning, my idea is still there. And I do this because there have been so many times where I've had a good idea, or at least I thought I had a good idea, and then in the morning I couldn't remember what it was. Because what happens is if you don't take notes, if you don't write it down, if you don't capture the idea, the communication that you're getting from the infinite mind, and that's what your subconscious will do when you're sleeping. When you don't record and capture that idea, it's gone, and it becomes the sounds of silence. Next time we're going to go over 6 more kind of one-liners that will hopefully move you forward in your endeavor to be the successful person that you desire and deserve to be. And because we will never end a meeting on a philosophical note, let's all get out there and charge! I'm Eli's dad.